Thank you for joining me today. I feel this is such an important topic, and I have seen signs that I want to share because they open up an opportunity for us to honor both Renee Nicole Good and Alex Jeffrey Pretti for what they've really given us, which is the most precious gift they could give, their voice and their story as a spiritual and ethical litmus test through which change can be demanded. I'm going to hyphenate the names and say pretty good. Pretty good by being 37, but also created a reset. They interrupted the current plan and left a legacy I feel we must now honor. And time is of the essence. So it's a choice point right now. The signs are clearly visible. Seeing and responding to the voice and story and the spiritual and ethical test will allow us to course correct our immigration policies, procedures, and activities, and both the reach and tone of the administration. We once were a people who automatically looked for and read the universe's signs until we were disconnected in multiple ways, and that's the subject of a different video. The empowered and rich, and also the oppressors, or as I like to say, the RUE, RUE, which is ruthless, unchecked egoists, already know how to read and powerfully use these signs. So I feel we need to catch up fast. The signs I saw around, surrounding the recent deaths of both Renee and Alex in Minneapolis show that we are at a pivotal decision point of course correction. Now is the time to successfully challenge the ongoing restrictions and trauma our federal government is imposing, most visibly through unwarranted, inhumane, and unchecked actions of its agents and the unfounded tarnishing of victim reputations. A full awareness of what is occurring on all levels will inspire us and give us hope via the assurance that the universe is actually supporting us, taking peaceful collective action with unwavering resolve to restore due process, laws, and rights for all. If we fail to be aware of and to put together all the signs, I feel we limit our ability to act as effectively as we can. Our effectiveness dramatically increases when we exchange look what has happened for helpful knowledge of how to read the power and then what we can do about it. So let's begin. First, we start January 2026 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The signs were created by a pattern of death, names, and numbers in the first month of a number one universal year. The two fatality-related Operation Metro Surge locations were chosen in advance for federal agent actions. And they were symbolic locations that really expanded and amplified the trauma of the events, regardless of if the events were planned or unplanned. So DHS chose the time, the place, and the action. Preti-Good were compassionate, honorable, humane, and living beings, and indisputable U.S. citizens. They chose to respond to these locations in support of their community and as a witness to any injustice. Good and Pretti were both 37, and that is a representative life number that would have been impossible for federal agents to have already known at the moment of confrontation. Preti-Good and the universe have jointly left a message for us to see, understand, and act upon. So I'm going to go through the signs. First, we're going to start with the sky and the number frame. January 2026 as a reset point. 2026 is a number in a one universal year. So you take 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6, which equals 10. So with 10, 1 plus 0 equals 1. That's why it's the one universal year. Using True Sky 13 signs sidereal astrology, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars were all in Capricorn. And that's a pact enforcement system house. Saturn and Neptune were in Aquarius at Pisces' edge, and that is dissolving institutions and refugee citizenship boundaries. 37 is the age of both victims. 3 plus 7 equals 10, which is 1, which is a catalyst and initiator number. 37 is also a pattern. 3 is voice and story, plus 7, which is spiritual and ethical test, equals 10, which we know is 1, which is a new cycle. I'm going to talk about the 37 pattern expanded, which are catalysts in a number 1 year. 37 reduces to 1, which is initiation, independence, and new beginnings. Numerologically, 37 is voice, 3 meets conscious, 7 which meets reset, which is 1. Both Renee, Nicole Good, and Alex Jeffrey Pretti were 37 when they were killed. 37 is read as a self-determined, spiritually charged catalyst. The federal agents who chose the dates, locations, and actions would have really been unable to know in advance that both of these people carried the number 37, which changed everything. Let's first move on to the traumatic fatality number 1, which is Renee Nicole Good, January 7th, 2026 at Portland and 34th. She is a 37-year-old U.S. citizen, mother of 3, a writer and poet, and a community witness. As I said, she was killed January 7th, 2026. And so January 7th is the 7th day, which mirrors the 7th in 37. The location was at Portland Avenue South and East 34th Street near the George Floyd Memorial Axis at 38th in Chicago. 34 is 3 plus 4, which is 7 for ethical testing, which also echoes both the date and age pattern. When looking at names, Renee Nicole Good, Nicollet, Nicole resurfaces in Nicollet. Good resurfaces in Good Grocer and Good Dwelling, both represented where Pretti's life ended. January 7th astrology and True Sky chart is Capricorn is in a quiet house. Capricorn in whole sign is Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, packed in an enforcement system house. Mars is still combust, acting from inside the machine. Forces hidden, institutional. Saturn and Neptune at Aquarius Pisces is institutional dissolution, refugees and blurred boundaries. The first traumatic fatality act was in a private access, a residential Portland and 34th near the Floyd Memorial. So the moral test begins here. The whole sign, 13 sign sidereal reading is enforcement acts more quietly at first on both home and memorial ground. Next, I'd like to talk about the NADC, which is the New American Development Center, which is a Somali New American context to the signs. The NADC is Somali-founded, Somali-led nonprofit, still visible at 2614 Nicollet. Its founder director is a Somali refugee who became a naturalized U.S. citizen and is a Democrat and a civic leader. NADC's Nicollet site is still active on directories and state records despite an operational relocation to Park Avenue. The federal climate at this time is DHS's auditing Somali Somali origin naturalized citizens for denaturalization. Then we have the Scam Act by Representative Emer, which targets Somali fraudsters for lack of or for loss of citizenship and deportation. Next, I'd like to talk about Alex, traumatic fatality 2. Is Alex Jeffrey Pretti, January 24th, 2026, at Nicollet near 26th. He is a 37-year-old ICU nurse, community care worker, and a legal observer. He was killed January 24th, 2026. January 24th, the 2-4 equals 6, which is care, meets with destiny 8, which is because of the 2 plus 6 of the 26th Street, and 8 is power and consequence. So care met power and consequence. The exact site of his killing was 2614 Nicollet Avenue South, near the NADC Nicollet building entrance. The signage was visible. So it was right near the building entrance. And the building is very remarkable and identifiable. Down from that, just about one door away, is the Good dwelling apartments, which brings Renee Nicole Good into this site. And then next to that is the Good grocer, which is 2 doors away. They're both on the same side of the street on the 26th to 27th corridor. We're going to move on now to the enforcement corridor, which is 26th, 27th, and 28th, which is represented by the numbers 8 to 9 to 1. 26 is 2 plus 6, which is 8, which is material power control and enforcement. Alex was killed here near NADC. 27 is 2 plus 7 equals 9, which is culmination, collective karmic reckoning. Good grocer and its signage was visible after his killing during crowd control. And that is located at the corner of 27th, along with Good Dwelling, which is above and next to the grocer. And the grocer was a business that had widely announced its closure all of January 23rd in support of the protests decrying Good's killing. 28 is 2 plus 8, which is 10, which is 1, which is a reset and a new start. The federal footprint extended for 3 blocks here. So the 3-block enforcement corridor had pre-operation staging of federal vehicles from 26th through 28th Street. The date January 24th, again, 2 plus 4 is 6, which is service and care, with 8, which is authority, and it was a caregiver killed under government power. Next, we're going to look at January 24th astrology and true sky, 13 sign sidereal chart. And this is Capricorn goes public. The same Capricorn whole sign in later degrees, Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars are still packed. Mars is emerging from the sun's beams. It's a force now visible, recorded, and undeniable. Saturn and Neptune at Aquarius Pisces is citizenship, refugee anxiety is now front and center. Traumatic fatality number 2 is in a public access. It is Eat Street, a commerce area, a protest zone, and a Somali hub. And whole sign, 13 sign sidereal reading, its enforcement acts overtly in front of named institutions and cameras. Next, I want to move to the name connections. The name and structure connections are the silent grid that was used to expand the trauma. Good, which is Renee's last name, and Good times 2. The victim is Renee Good, and then we have Good Grocer and Good Dwelling, anchoring 27th. Then we have Nicole and Nicollet, the victim's middle name and the street where the second victim dies. Then we have Good Businesses, which are a nonprofit model openly in support of protesters. Next, we have NADC, which is Somali New American Center under federal immigration and denaturalization focus. The next, we have Portland as a street and a city access link. So we have a Minneapolis and Portland, Oregon connection, and both are in national anti-ICE protests. Next, we have Chicago as a street and a city access link, which Minneapolis and Chicago, Illinois are also in a national anti-ICE protest. Next, we want to just briefly look at the intersection of multiple axes. That is Minneapolis, Portland, Chicago, Floyd, healthcare and nursing, veterans unions, news and social media coverage, and national and international outrage. All these things are expanding the reach and the trauma. So I want to touch on this. Portland and 34th is where Renee was killed near the George Floyd Memorial at 38th in Chicago. Good's family also hired Georgia Floyd's attorneys to investigate her death. National protests link Minneapolis, Portland, Oregon, and Chicago by name. There's a federal crackdown that explicitly targets all three cities as problem zones. The first killing reactivates the Floyd corridor, and Renee Nicole Good was a victim of that. The second killing completes a pattern across the city. Then we have the Oregon Nurses Association that speaks out as outraged, heartbroken, and profoundly disturbed regarding the fatal shooting of 37-year-old registered nurse Pretti by federal agents in Minneapolis on January 24, 2026, where he was gunned down while speaking out. And then they further remind us that the world that Pretti was a union member, an ICU nurse, and at a VA hospital caring for military veterans and their families. What has been brought up by people has been helpful and good. And it also just highlights the choreography of where the sites that were chosen for these actions, and how those sites were intended to expand the trauma. Then next I want to go to the arcs. This at least is my vision of what has been going on. The arc of the signs is what we're going to discuss next, which is the cosmic frame. We have a one universal year with Capricorn enforcement, which is Saturn and Neptune dissolution. Then we have the numerical mirror, which is both victims were age 37, which is a one number, which is catalyst energy. Next, we have the geographic precisions that were chosen by DHS. Portland and 34th to the Nicollet corridor, where Good's name echoes and is woven through the landscape. Next, we have the institutional reality, NADC, and an expansive and traumatic immigration and denaturalization climate, and federal vehicles and agents in sweeps. Then finally, we have the silent but prophetic grid, which is home and memorial ground. Then good for Nicole Good and good times two for businesses. And the Nicollet synchronicities. As sort of what I see out of this is that we, the people, can determine the course of this new 9-year cycle, which has just begun. We have agency beyond government choice, and that we can respond in peaceful ways to rewrite the enforcement script, provide community care, and legal and financial and moral support. We can broadcast the experiences of witness networks. We can work to restore the good names and reputations of people wrongfully impugned. We can increase awareness through accurate narrative work, not letting the narrative be controlled, but looking at it realistically, putting the signs and the facts together and accurately speaking out about the narrative. And most importantly, we can apply political pressure through our support, choice, voice, and vote. All of the astrological and numeric and name signs we've been given clearly reveal that both of these incredibly good, humane beings fully overrode the continuing escalation of terror with their actions, encoded ages, names, patterns of being good people, and where they chose to be on the street grid itself. They also reset this new cycle that was off to a horrific start and gave us all the most precious gift they could give, their voice and story as a spiritual and ethical litmus test through which to demand change. Right now it is, I feel, our responsibility to honor that gift, knowing that a complete revision of action, oversight, and policy is needed to ensure true and lasting change. Also revealed in the signs is the choreographing and expansion of what can only be called a power campaign of terror and trauma via bloodshed, excessive enforcement, chosen dates and locations, and a federal authority which continues to escalate and broaden to U.S. citizens of all designations. Preti-Good together have put our government's domestic tactics and actions on full national and international display. The pattern of agenda, control, and terror is readable. It is time to see and understand and share the universe's call for a reset now. The universe clearly supports we, the humane beings of the United States of America. Preti-Good both revealed the unacceptable federal trajectory at a pivotal time of reset. The numerology and astrology declare we are at the precipice of a new 9-year cycle. We collectively have the power to course correct with our attention, our peaceful resolve, our voices, our votes, in honor of Preti-Good and all humanity. So, how can we approach what's happened in Minneapolis? Recognize the grid, the names, the dates, the numbers that encode intentions and consequences. Witness and call out the scale of expansion being used for effect. Geographically, on this, the Nicollet corridor, um, also the ones I've mentioned earlier, but I'll just point a few here. To the national, which is the Minneapolis, Portland, Chicago access, to relational, good and Floyd, and industry and occupation involvement. Right now, we need to act with Preti-Good agency. And what does that mean? To me, that starts by restoring Renee's and Alex's good names and reputations, along with others similarly attacked, that we speak up and show up peacefully and decisively for the duration required for appropriate change, not just some superficial smoothing, but real change. Preti-Good agency also means that once we've seen and understood all that has and is unfolding, that we refuse to act as if the government choice is the only determinant of what happens next. This agency also requires us to step into the opening we've been given by using the signs and the patterns as tools for coordinated care, peaceful resistance, and future building, rather than allowing and watching a grim prophecy to unfold. So, that said, I'm going to take a sip of water. So, let us keep on approaching and naming and calling out any brutal, inhumane treatment of people and the collateral damage to individuals, families, communities, businesses, targeted states, our nation, and the world who's looking on with disbelief and real alarm. Name what is happening in Minnesota and beyond. We've witnessed a federal immigration campaign of unacceptable control, terror, trauma, which has rapidly expanded to all types of U.S. citizens and residents, and which increasingly threatens our constitutional rights. We also need to decry the campaigns of expanded authority and control over all the peoples of our nations. Next, we can call on federal, state, and local elected representatives, along with local leaders, individuals, and businesses and other entities with political power, to act and speak up now, to restore our rights and the balance of power, to reform immigration programs and campaigns, to meet humane and legal standards, and to repair and address the damage caused to date. Next, we can peacefully organize, witness, protect, and redistribute power back to peoples, communities, and states under threat. Then we can refuse to accept all the intended outcomes, the feelings and environments being created that are designed to keep us disengaged, fearful, hopeless, inactive, overwhelmed, passive, silent, and vulnerable. These need to be rejected and understood. It's much easier to reject them when you can see the patterns. Next, we need to track the next cycle, which in 2026, as I said, is a 1 year, which is a new beginning of a 9-year cycle. And it's just begun. So let's proactively be aware of what can unfold in months 2 and 9, then beyond. Then we want to exchange the look what's happened to expand knowledge of how to repower and what we can do about it. As I mentioned before, the empowered oppressors and the rich already know how to powerfully use timing and the signs. Using True Sky is important, as I feel Western Tropical was ultimately created many years ago to confuse, control, and disconnect us from the sky and true synchronicity with what's going on. I recommend using the 13 sign True Sky sidereal. It's a perfect place to start, as far as I'm concerned, is Dr. Danny, which is dr.dani, physician astrologer on YouTube. I'd like to close by saying, if you found value in this presentation, please like and share this video. As you can see, I'm just starting to speak out. I will continue to post updates, so follow this channel and set notifications. Blessings to you all, and let's stay committed, intentional, and peaceful so that we disable any attempts to expand reasons for more government overreach. Have a great day as far as gaining your hope back. And, I hope to see you soon. Thank you.